Plan review, it's a good year. A case 3 floodplain development permit, a class 2 adjustment, class 2 adjustments, and class 1 adjustments, and class 2 driveway.
it's, no, we're last. There's no change.
Good evening, my name is Laurel Christian. I am an infrastructure planner with the Community Planning and Development Department to present variance case number VAR 26-01 for property located at 4625 Mill Creek Drive Southeast. At this time, I would like to enter the staff report, its attachments, and this presentation into the record.
So accepted.
The request before the hearings officer this evening is a variance application that would allow modification to a condition of approval for a subdivision for which a plat has been recorded. The established condition of approval requires construction of an off-site street improvement, including construction of a sidewalk on one side of the street. The requested variance would modify the location of the sidewalk construction, but does not eliminate the construction of the sidewalk entirely or the street improvement. I will discuss this in more detail in a few slides. And additional background information has been included in the staff report as well as in the record. This request impacts lot 1 of the Walm phase of the Mill Creek Corporate Center subdivision. Construction of these improvements is required at time of development on the property outlined in blue and as identified in the original condition of approval, which is condition 2B of the Mill Creek Corporate Center subdivision decision. No development is proposed with this application. The subject property is outlined here and is located at the corner of Deer Park Drive and Mill Creek Drive, highlighted with the blue star. The subject property abuts property owned by the Department of Corrections, labeled as DOC property on the map. Also to note is property owned by Corbin University on the opposite side of Deer Park Drive. The portion of the Deer Park right-of-way impacted by this variance request is identified on the map with hash. This is an aerial image of the area. As you can see, there have been multiple industrial developments built out in the Mill Creek Corporate Center over the past few years. However, the subject property is currently vacant. The adjacent DOC property contains Santiam Correction Institution. However, the portion of the DOC property directly adjacent to Deer Park Drive is currently undeveloped and secured with fencing that runs along the Deer Park right-of-way, which will be shown later in photos. The Corbin University property is developed with multiple structures that support the university, as well as sports fields and other site improvements that you can see on the map. The subject property is zoned Employment Center, or EC, and generally surrounded by similarly zoned properties. The Department of Corrections property owned to the north is zoned Public Health, or PH, and the Corbin University property to the east is zoned Public Education, or PE. The PA zone properties that extend through the Mill Creek Corporate Center subdivision generally follow wetland mitigation areas that contain public trails. To provide some additional context, the Mill Creek Corporate Center subdivision is a nearly 500-acre phased subdivision that was originally approved in 2008 and most recently modified in 2019. The original property was owned by the state of Oregon and developed in partnership as an industrial and employment center between the state of Oregon and the city's urban development department. The overall master plan for the area is shown here. The site is generally bounded by on the north by Almsville Highway, on the south by Turner Road, on the east by Deer Park Drive, and on the west by Kugler Boulevard. The subdivision approval for the Mill Creek Corporate Center and subsequent modifications established conditions of approval for each development within the subdivision. Those conditions of approval have slowly been completed over time, and some conditions of approval are still outstanding as the area continues to build out. The complete subdivision decision is included in the record, and the full condition of approval is included in the staff report on pages 5 and 6. To summarize, the applicant is requesting to modify a previous condition of approval required at time of development on the subject property. The condition requires a full street improvement along Deer Park Drive to collector street standards, which includes sidewalk on the development side of the street. As Mill Creek Corporate Center development is on the west side of Deer Park Drive, the sidewalk was required to be constructed on the western side of the street from the intersection of Mill Creek Drive to Almsville Highway. The alignment of the required sidewalk is shown here with a blue dashed line. The applicant requests this variance to allow the required sidewalk to be constructed on the eastern side of the Deer Park right-of-way for a portion of the required improvements. The sidewalk would be constructed along the west side of Deer Park Drive along the frontage of the property, which is shown with a blue star. Then a mid-block pedestrian crossing with a marked crosswalk and a rapid flashing beacon would be provided, and the remaining sidewalk would be constructed to Almsville Highway on the eastern side of the right-of-way. The general alignment is shown here in blue. The approximate location of the mid-block crossing is shown in white. The applicant has provided preliminary plans for the improvement, which are included in the record. The variance request would approve relocation of the required sidewalk and improvement from the western side of the Deer Park right-of-way, which abuts the Department of Corrections owned property, to the eastern side of the right-of-way, which is adjacent to the Corbin University property, as shown here on the. These photos were taken along Deer Park Drive and show Corbin University property on the left of the screen and Department of Corrections property on the right of the screen. As you can see, there is a vertical grade difference between the Corbin property, Deer Park Drive, and the Department of Corrections property, where the Corbin property is on the uphill side and Department of Corrections property is on the downhill side of the slope. As described in the staff report, the applicant's written statement and demonstrated on the preliminary plans, construction of the required sidewalk on the Corbin University side of the street is more feasible given the topography and vertical grade differences. Additionally, as you can see in these photos, there is existing security fencing along the DOC property that could be in conflict with, given the existing grade differential of Deer Park roadway and the lower grade of the DOC property. Relocating the sidewalk improves security and safety and reduces conflicts with the existing security and fencing, also improving connectivity where none currently exists along the roadway. This shows an excerpt from the applicant's plans showing the approximate location of the mid-block pedestrian crossing, which would be placed approximately at the northern property boundary of the subject property along Deer Park Drive, where the property abuts Department of Corrections property. The sidewalk would continue along Corbin University property to Almsville Highway along the eastern side of the right-of-way. Staff finds that this alternative sidewalk location meets the intent of the original subdivision condition, which was to provide an overall connected pedestrian network, given that the Mill Creek Corporate Center subdivision as a whole was bounded by Almsville Highway to the north and Deer Park Drive to the east. As such, in order to approve the variance request, staff recommends one condition of approval, which would establish that at time of development on the subject property, the sidewalk be constructed as proposed by the applicant in the alignment in order to meet the original condition of approval for the subdivision. The approval criteria for a variance application are listed in SRC Chapter 245 and addressed in pages 5 through 7 of the staff report. Generally, staff find that there are existing physical characteristics of the land that make meeting the original condition of approval practically difficult. We do not find that there would be any adverse impacts to public health, safety, or welfare by approving the variance request. We recommend one condition of approval to ensure that the intent of the original condition of approval is met and that pedestrian connectivity and safety is provided. All required public notices were provided in accordance with Salem Revised Code Chapter 300. We received one public comment, which was from Corbin University and was in support of the proposed variance request. The comment is included as an attachment to the staff report. Staff recommends that the hearings officer approve the requested variance subject to one condition of approval, requiring the applicant to construct the required sidewalk as proposed at time of development, including the mid-block crossing and rapid flashing beacon. These improvements would be designed and constructed in accordance with Public Works design standards. That concludes my presentation, and I will be available for any questions.
The condition that's proposed includes the pedestrian crossing?
That's correct.
Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Ms. Randall.
Okay, thank you. For your record, my name is Brittany Randall with Brand Land Use. I'm representing the property owner Capstone Mill Creek Logistics LLC in this case. I won't repeat all of the facts that Laurel presented here. I'm mostly here to answer questions, but I did just want to hone in on the fact that this variance request does not eliminate the connection. And in fact, I think this is a better configuration now that we've gone through iterations of design. We've discovered this impracticality of providing the connection on the east side of Deer Park, on the west side of Deer Park. North side,
West side.
thank you. Really?
We're moving it from west to east.
Yes, thank you. We are moving this from west to east and providing the connection along Corbin University. I think it will have more use over there than it would on the frontage of the Department of Corrections. Additionally, you saw that Corbin University is in support of this improvement along their frontage. We provided evidence to the city that dedication of right-of-way happened in 1997. So the right-of-way for us to construct this improvement along their frontage exists. And I believe that we meet all of the criteria for this to be approved.
Does the pedestrian crossing include electronic devices for pedestrians to create a signal?
They will press that they're ready to cross and the beacons will flash. Yes.
Otherwise, it appears to be a rather dangerous situation crossing that road with just a striped pedestrian.
Right. And I will add that we have been in communication, continue to be in communication. In fact, this week sent updated plans to city staff for review. We had long discussions with city staff, including the planning administrator prior to even making this application, in order to ensure that we had full city support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren James
Jones.
Jones.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Jordan Wade.
Good evening, everyone. Jordan Wade here, and on behalf of Corbin University and the president, who could not be here, unfortunately, he's in Indonesia right now. I wanted to offer our support for the variance case in consideration of both public pedestrian safety and in an endeavor to be a good neighbor to the city of Salem. Moving the sidewalk to our side is in keeping with our mission to educate students who will make a difference in the work of Jesus Christ. So we're happy to support. Safety matters.
I don't have anybody else on the sign-up sheet. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to testify in opposition? Any representatives from the neighborhood association? Anybody not listed that would just rather like to ask a question? Any final staff comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Gary, or Mr. Hearing Officer, that the condition as written includes a mid-block pedestrian crossing with rapid flashing beacon, and the rapid flashing beacon is that electronic device that you were wondering about. And so as written, we are including that.
In the condition?
In the condition, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Any summary? If not, I'll close the public hearing. I've read the staff report and the supplemental material that I received, and it's my intent to approve the variance no later than next Monday. So, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. See what it is. Well, it's not an official one. It's not an official one. I think they have 5 days or whatever. So they have 14 days to do it. There's been no response from. So.
The next hearing we have is Case number WGP, REP, SPR, FTP, EDJ, ADJ, DAP 2601. In regard to this hearing, I'd like to indicate I have no ex parte contacts or any conflicts of interest. At this time, members of the audience may challenge my impartiality. Hearing no challenges, I'd like to go into the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Peter Dominy with the City of Salem Planning Division, and I'd like to request to enter into the record the staff report, the presentation, and all application materials for the consolidated Class 2 Willamette Greenway Development Permit, case number WGP, REP, SPR, FEP, ADJ, DAP 26-01 for property located at 901 Front Street Northeast.
So accepted.
All right, the request is for a consolidated application for a Class 2 Willamette Greenway Development Permit and Class 3 Site Plan Review for the development of 2 new buildings and associated site improvements for an assisted living facility and memory care facility on a vacant lot. The consolidated application includes a tentative replat plan to reconfigure the underlying lot lines into 2 new parcels, with the assisted living building on the south parcel and the memory care building on the north parcel. The request also includes 1 Class 2 driveway approach permit for new access onto Front Street, a Class 2 floodplain development permit, and several Class 1 and 2 adjustments to various development standards. For background, the proposed development was previously approved in 2017 under another land use case. However, over the years, building permits were not completed and the land use approval expired. In the interim, the zoning of the property has changed along with many development standards. The subject property is located along the 900 block of Front Street Northeast, between the street to the east and the Willamette River to the west, just north of downtown Salem. The subject property is a vacant lot, approximately 3.8 acres in size, according to the county assessor's tax lot map, 4.4 acres in size as measured from the ordinary high water line on the applicant's survey submitted with the application materials. Here's an aerial view of the property, showing the property in the blue outline. That's the tax lot size. Here are some 3D rendering aerial views from Google Earth, looking over the property toward the river, slightly southwest on the top there, and then from the riverside, slightly southeast on the bottom. And here are some recent street view images from Front Street looking west over the property. The property is zoned MUR, mixed use riverfront, shown in the light green. To the north, property that straddles Mill Creek on both sides is owned by the City of Salem and is zoned PA, public amusement, shown in green. The general vicinity is otherwise also zoned MUR along the river and across Front Street, CB, Central Business District, shown in the salmon color. According to Chapter 536 of the zoning code, the purpose of the mixed-use riverfront zone is to promote a mixed-use pedestrian-oriented district that encourages a mix of uses and multi-story buildings and promotes pedestrian access to the Willamette River. The property is located entirely within the Willamette Greenway boundary, shown in the brown hatching. And the western third of the property abutting the river is within the compatibility review boundary, shown in the green hatching. The compatibility review boundary also extends further inward along Mill Creek to the north. Here's the overall development site plan showing the two proposed parcels with the future property line shown as the orange dash. with the assisted living building on the south parcel and the memory care building on the north parcel. The two share a common driveway entrance from the south parcel circled in red and parking and vehicle use area in between them. The development also includes two fire access only lanes on either end of the site behind the buildings. The line shown in blue is the ordinary high water level line and property boundary according to the applicant's topographic survey. The yellow line is the 100-year floodplain, and the green line is the riparian buffer. SRC Chapter 600 outlines the requirements for development within the Willamette Greenway boundary. Because the development is also within the compatibility review boundary, a Class 2 Greenway development permit is required per SRC 600.015B2. Section E2 outlines the applicable approval criteria as addressed in pages 5 through 12 of the staff report. And with the recommended conditions of approval, the proposed development conforms with the applicable uses and development standards of SRC 600. Overall, the site includes the establishment of a 75-foot riparian buffer area measured from the ordinary high water line. That is the area from the blue line to the green line. The applicant has chosen the riparian buffer enhancement option of additional tree and shrub plantings as a required mitigation measure. The proposal conforms with all other standards of the Willamette Greenway development permit, including dedication of a 15-foot wide easement along the western edge of the property for the future Willamette Riverfront multi-use path as identified in the Salem Transportation System Plan and Park System Master Plan. The development plans show access to the future path will be constructed within the site along the north side adjacent to Mill Creek. In order to provide public access to the future paths through the site, staff recommend as a condition of approval that prior to issuance of occupancy, the applicant shall convey a 15-foot wide public access easement for the future Willamette Riverfront path and Mill Creek path as shown on the applicant's development plans. As previously discussed, the proposal includes a replat tentative plan to reconfigure the underlying lot lines that make up the property to create two new parcels. As addressed in pages 12 to 15 of the staff report, the proposed replat meets the applicable approval criteria. Site plan review is required for new development, which requires a building permit to ensure it meets the applicable development standards of the Unified Development Code. This includes zone-specific standards, standards for off-street parking areas, landscaping, infrastructure requirements, and public improvements. Because the proposal includes a replat to create two new parcels and two separate buildings with a shared vehicle use area, and because the zone had changed since the previous approval that this design was created around, several zoning adjustments were also requested to standards which apply to each building, as well as standards that apply across the development site. The majority of the requested adjustments were to the MUR zone-specific standards, such as setbacks and street frontage, building facade articulation, minimum window coverage along the street and riverfront building facades. The adjustments were generally all to the same standards applying to each building on its individual parcel. That is why there are so many. Given the unique nature of the use as an assisted living and memory care facility and the development being primarily residential in nature, staff were supportive of the adjustments to the standards, which are more generally intended toward mixed-use commercial and residential buildings. Here's an elevation drawing of the memory care building on the north parcel. The top image is the view from Front Street facing west. And the third view is from the interior of the site facing north toward the front of the building. Here are the building elevations of the assisted living facility on the south parcel. The first view is looking south from the interior of the site toward the front of the building. And the second view is of the side and front of the building, looking west from the street. As shown on the applicant's landscaping plans, the development site will provide abundant new landscaped areas and trees on the site, with the zoning adjustments addressed in pages 47 through 54 of the staff report and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Staff find that the proposed development conforms with the site plan review approval criteria. A portion of the subject property is located within the mapped special flood hazard area. The proposed structures are not located within the floodplain. However, site grading, construction of green stormwater infrastructure, and the proposed fire access along the north side of the property require evaluation against the standards in SRC Chapter 601. As described in the staff report, the floodplain administrator has reviewed the floodplain development permit and found that with the recommended conditions of approval addressing the floodplain mitigation assessment standards relating to trees and riparian vegetation along Mill Creek, the standards are met. And lastly, the application also includes a Class 2 driveway approach for a new shared driveway access onto Front Street, that's circled in red area. The request also included a Class 2 adjustment to reduce the minimum 370-foot spacing between this new approach and an existing approach on the neighboring property to the south. Development Services reviewed the proposal and provided findings that, along with the approval of adjustment to spacing, the driveway approach meets the applicable standards and will provide safe access into the site. During the comment period, no comments were received from other agencies, from the Neighborhood Code Association, or members of the public. Staff recommends that the hearings officer adopt the facts and findings of the staff report and approve the application subject to conditions of approval identified in the staff report. And this concludes my presentation.
Couple questions. On pages 36 and 37 of the staff report, you address the off-street loading standards, referring to table 806-11. Did you use group living as the use category to establish the applicable standards?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so.
That seemed to be the most
Yes.
logical category.
Right. Residential care use falls under the group living.
Yeah. And did you go back to the architectural rendering of the larger building?
Share my screen again.
I guess it's the living facility. There.
Yep.
I guess my question has to do with Class 2 Adjustment 8, which is kind of a subjective sort of analysis regarding the building facade articulation between the ground and middle floors. Is this an accurate representation of what it's actually going to look like?
Yes, so the portion that is abutting the street is this 60-foot area right around here.
Yeah.
And there's the first floor, and the second floor, and a third floor. There's no horizontal break between the ground and middle floors,
Right.
and that carries across the building this way.
And so the point is, based on coloring, materials, the intent has been satisfied? Was that staff's position?
We believe so, yes.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you. Well done. Took me 4 hours to get through this stuff.
Imagine writing it.
Imagine. Okay, Mr. David
Colbert.
Colbert,
Yes, sir.
representing the applicant.
Yes. I'll be brief.
My name is David Holbert. I'm representing Lindy Architecture for the owner. We do have this project that's been in the works for quite a number of years. Assisted living and memory care facility. As you saw also from the slides, it's a 4-story building and approximately 95 units for the memory care, or sorry, for the assisted living side, and a 1-story building for the memory care, and that's 35 units for that building. I'm going to touch on what you brought up on the elevations, just so that you know maybe it didn't look from a 2D image. There are undulations on the building that go front to back, in and out also, to help satisfy that elevation requirement.
It's hard to tell from a two-dimensional.
It is, and I just wanted to point that out. I'm not gonna belabor anything more. It's a pretty long document, and Peter did a pretty good job of presenting it. So we're looking forward to getting it built, getting it going from the ground up. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McMahon?
Yeah, I can add to that a little bit. Not much to say, but just excited to be part of the Salem community. Been in senior housing for about 18 years and I'm very active. We're kind of medium sized, but we're just in Oregon, Washington. So this project was just kind of waiting for timing in that space and for that area to develop, and just with everything happening, they were pretty excited to move this forward. So yeah, that's nothing.
When are you gonna break ground?
The goal would be probably March of next year is what we're targeting right now. So, and I don't think that's unrealistic. So, yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, thanks to everybody for all your hard work. It is quite the file. It's a great development that I think will really benefit the seniors of Salem, Oregon. I'm already labeling the nicest assisted living memory care campus in Salem, Oregon. A little premature, but we'll get there. There's also a possibility in that memory care building. What's unique about that design is it's 2 halves. As what you see, there were 2 different courtyards, and I've been working with Melissa Tabor over at the Department of Human Services down here in Salem, Oregon. We've got a program in Portland, Oregon that works real well. It's called SNC, which is specific needs, and it kind of helps get some of the individuals off the streets. And we're not 100% perfect. You know, some don't make it, some end up back at the state hospital, and some take their own lives. But we've got a great pattern of helping people, and so we're talking about maybe using half of that building for that program to see if we can maybe help see them out a little bit. So some fun things, but either way, the way it's designed and developed, it would meet the standards that would be required for that. So yeah, excited for the project, and any questions, welcome time. But in the business about 18 years and ready to be present here in Salem, Oregon. So super excited.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't see anybody else in the audience who could potentially testify, so turn back to staff and see if there's any final comments you wish to make. Any final comments for the applicant? Close the public hearing then. Again, I'll try to have this decision out early next week. I've got a draft decision that's taken me, I don't know how many hours to achieve, ready to go. And again, it'll be out by early next week. And my intent is to approve all of the adjustments and all of the permits. So, thank you. If there's no further business for the hearings official, we'll close up. Kudos to staff for the good staff reports.